The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, it always happens so fast.
It really does. I mean, imagine ending a 6-year relationship, and the very next morning, millions of strangers are debating the intimate minutia of your breakup over their morning coffee.
Right, they're citing blame, creating these wildly complex timelines, and analyzing your wardrobe choices for hidden messages. It's wild.
It sounds like an absolute psychological nightmare. Welcome to StarScope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into a massive headline. Taylor Swift's ex, Joe Alwyn, has moved on, and fans have questions.
They have so many questions. We are taking the stack of sources you, our listeners, provided us with today, ranging from, high fashion magazine profiles and legacy newspaper interviews to breathless internet gossip.
We're basically treating them as an anthropological study at this point.
Exactly. Our mission today is to really dissect the mechanics of modern fame. We want to focus on how public figures navigate moving on when the whole world is not just watching, but actively trying to script their next move.
Yeah, because what we are looking at here is a masterclass in narrative control under extreme duress.
Yeah.
I mean, when your private life is commodified by the public, retaining your agency becomes a matter of actual psychological survival.
Wow. Yeah.
To understand this, we're analyzing 3 individuals caught in the current cultural crosshairs. You've got British actor Joe Alwyn, his rumored new connection, rising star Sarah Pidgeon, and of course, global phenomenon Taylor Swift.
Right.
These 3 represent completely divergent strategies for navigating an attention economy that just demands constant content.
So, okay, let's start with what we might call the blackout strategy, which is totally embodied by Joe Alwyn.
Oh, 100%.
For 6.5 years, he was part of one of the most intensely scrutinized relationships on the planet with Swift. And after a long period of complete silence post-breakup, he recently surfaced. But in 2 very specific places.
Right, he went to The Guardian and the June 2024 edition of the Times London.
Yes. And he described the past relationship as, quote, long, loving, and fully committed. But beyond the quote itself, I really want to look at the mechanism of his return. Because, he didn't drop a dramatic, tearful video on TikTok.
No, not at all.
He didn't go on a massive, highly publicized late-night talk show tour. He went to legacy British broadsheets.
And that choice of venue is the first critical piece of his survival strategy, I think. He's deliberately engaging with what we call slow media.
Slow media, right.
Yeah, by choosing respected, print-first journalism over the algorithmic hyperspeed of social media, he's basically signaling a refusal to play the fast-paced, reactionary pop culture game.
He's stepping out of the arena.
Exactly. He is attempting to ground the narrative in something tangible and sober, rather than throwing raw meat into the digital arena, where it can be immediately remixed and weaponized by fans.
And he actually addresses that exact phenomenon of weaponization in the sources. There's this visceral realization he shares about how he has personally moved on, but the public hasn't allowed the narrative to move on.
Right. People are still stuck on it.
They are. He described the breakup as having something very real suddenly thrown into a very unreal space. Tabloids, social media, press, where it is then dissected, speculated on, pulled out of shape beyond recognition.
Okay, that phrasing, pulled out of shape beyond recognition, that perfectly describes the mechanism of parasocial relationships in the digital age. Because the algorithm doesn't reward nuance. It doesn't reward mutual, amicable breakups. It rewards villains, heroes, betrayal, and drama.
He needs a bad guy.
Always. So the unreal space Olin is talking about, which is the collective consciousness of the internet, it takes the mundane reality of 2 people growing apart and physically distorts it to fit a commercially viable narrative.
Okay, let's unpack how he actually survives that distortion. Because if millions of people are walking around with a mutated, villainous, or tragic action figure version of you in their heads.
Well, it has to be awful.
Right. It has to be psychologically crushing. The sources note he survives by tethering himself to the ground, his friends, his family, his work. But I have to push back here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is tethering really an active strategy, or is it just a polite way of saying he's hiding in a bunker and hoping the fallout clears?
Well, see, I'd argue it is an incredibly active psychological boundary. He also mentions in these interviews making peace with the permanent gap between what is known and what is said. And that requires a tremendous amount of discipline. The natural human instinct when you are misunderstood or lied about on a global scale is to shout back, to correct the record, to show the receipts,
Oh, totally. I'd be tweeting instantly.
Exactly. But Alwyn's strategy requires him to suppress that instinct entirely. He recognizes that participating in the unreal space only legitimizes it. So by accepting the gap, he cuts off the oxygen supply to the rumor mill. He just refuses to feed the beast.
But the problem with refusing to feed the beast is that the beast will eventually just hunt for its own food. Which brings us to the failure point of the blackout strategy. You still have to physically exist in the world.
Yep.
And later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding Taylor's own massive news. But first, let's look at how Joe's strategy was breached. If you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
You really don't want to miss it.
Because that brings us straight to the recent Dumois report, placing the 35-year-old Alwyn in Brooklyn's Fort Greene neighborhood, reportedly spotted with 29-year-old actress Sarah Pidgeon, and instantly the blackout is breached.
Right, the panopticon of modern society reasserts itself. You can avoid late-night couches, but you cannot avoid the smartphone lens of a random pedestrian getting coffee.
And instantly, a whole new storyline is written for him. But before we analyze the public's reaction, let's look at Sarah Pidgeon based on the Broadway buzz and Net-a-Porter sources. She is building a deeply serious, craft-focused career.
Very serious.
A Carnegie Mellon graduate, recently nominated for a Tony Award for the acclaimed Broadway play Stereophonic, and currently shooting a major Amazon MGM film called Honeymoon with Harry alongside Jake Gyllenhaal and Kevin Costner.
She's really navigating that critical transition from working actor to recognized name right now, which makes her sudden injection into the Joe Alwyn narrative particularly complex.
Yeah.
She is entering the unreal space at the exact moment she's trying to establish her own professional legitimacy.
Here's where I want to challenge the entire premise of the internet's reaction to this sighting, though. The moment Dumois posted that they were seen together, the internet universally declared it a romantic date.
Of course they did.
The fans immediately started weaving her into the larger breakup lore. But our sources explicitly point out a massive contradiction.
Oh, the Australia thing.
Yes. Earlier this year, Pidgeon was spotted in Australia with Jake Gyllenhaal. The internet went completely wild, fans assumed it was a new romance, and it turned out they were just colleagues having a pre-production meeting for their upcoming film.
Wow.
So are we, as a culture, just aggressively projecting romance onto any two working professionals who happen to stand next to each other? Are we so desperate for the next chapter of the Joe Alwyn storyline that we're willing to invent it out of thin air?
Well, we absolutely are projecting because the attention economy abhors a vacuum. When an actor like Alwyn creates a vacuum by refusing to provide a narrative, the public will crowdsource one.
They'll just make it up.
Exactly.
Right.
And what makes this particular projection so fascinating is Sarah Pidgeon's deep understanding of this exact dynamic. In Ryan Murphy's recent hit series Love Story, Pidgeon played Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy.
Which is incredibly poignant context because Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy was essentially ground zero for the lethal combination of paparazzi culture and public obsession in the 1990s.
She was absolutely hunted. And in her Net-a-Porter interview, Pidgeon draws this terrifying through line from the 90s paparazzi landscape to the reality she is facing today.
Yeah.
She points out that back in the 90s, while the paparazzis were aggressive, they were identifiable. You could sometimes slip out a back door or find a physical sanctuary.
Right. You could spot the guy with the huge camera.
Exactly. Today, Pidgeon notes, the architecture of surveillance has fundamentally changed. She says, quote, "Everyone has a phone now."
It's the privatization of the paparazzi. You aren't just hiding from professionals with telephoto lenses anymore. You are hiding from the barista, the person sitting at the next table, the pedestrian crossing the street.
Everyone is a potential informant.
Your exact GPS coordinates can be broadcast to millions of people in 3 seconds.
It creates a state of constant low-grade paranoia. And Pidgeon takes this analysis further, dissecting the psychological trap this creates, particularly for women in the public eye.
Oh, the double standards.
Right. She calls out the impossible double standards that dictate how a woman is allowed to react to this surveillance. If a camera is shoved in your face or a rumor goes viral, you can't show legitimate anger, or you are instantly labeled a bitch or unstable.
Yep.
But if you shut down and protect yourself, you are branded an ice queen.
You can't be too meek, or you're weak. and easily victimized. It's an unwinnable matrix of behavior. And that's not even the wildest part about this whole paparazzi dynamic. So whether Joe Alwyn and Sarah Pidgeon are actually dating, or whether they were just two actors discussing a script over coffee in Brooklyn, they are fundamentally bonded by the shared reality.
Very much so.
He survived 6 years inside the most intense pop culture pressure cooker on Earth. And she spent months researching and internalizing the psychology of a woman who was historically destroyed by that same pressure.
They both acutely understand the high cost of visibility. They know the mechanics of the machine that is trying to consume them.
Okay, so if Alwyn's strategy is a complete media blackout, and Pidgeon is currently learning how to navigate the modern panopticon, what happens when you do the exact opposite?
Oh, this is the best part.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because the contrast here is insane. Let's pivot to Taylor Swift, who has adopted a playbook that is the total inverse of Alwyn's. She isn't retreating. She is fully, unapologetically embracing the spectacle.
She is executing a strategy of weaponized omnipresence. If Alwyn believes the way to win the game is not to play, Swift believes the way to win is to own the board, rewrite the rules, and basically buy the stadium where the game is being played.
Let's look at the sheer volume of output detailed in our stratas. She just became the youngest woman ever at 36 to be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But it's not just the achievement, it's the execution.
The details matter here.
Right. She delivered a 21-minute speech. She wore custom Givenchy heels. She casually quoted John Dutton from the hit show Yellowstone, which is a highly calculated, cross-demographic cultural nod.
Brilliant move.
She cried thanking her family and then anointed a rising artist named Somber, essentially directing her massive cultural capital toward the next generation. Meanwhile, she concurrently secured her 7th UK #1 single with a track from the Toy Story 5 soundtrack.
I mean, it's dizzying. And we have to view these not just as career milestones, but as a deliberate defense mechanism. Think of it like a military aircraft deploying chaff to avoid a heat-seeking missile.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. By flooding the public radar with a million glittering, highly produced, impeccably curated data points, the speeches, the couture, the chart records, the surprise songs, she completely overwhelms the system. The tabloids and the public are so busy tracking the decoys she freely provides that they lose the ability to penetrate her actual, quiet, private life.
She feeds the beast a 5-course Michelin star meal every single day, so it never feels the need to dig through her trash.
Precisely the mechanism at play. But she doesn't stop at professional dominance. She has integrated her personal life into this strategy of overwhelming force.
Right. The sources are completely consumed by the massive personal news surrounding her and Kansas City Chiefs star Travis Kelce. Kelce reportedly flew straight from a mandatory NFL minicamp just to attend her Hall of Fame induction.
Which is huge.
And the reports suggest they are planning an exclusive Madison Square Garden wedding over the 4th of July weekend.
Okay, renting out an iconic 20,000-seat arena in the middle of Manhattan for a private wedding is the ultimate manifestation of hiding in plain sight. It turns a private milestone into a cultural monolith.
It's so monumental that billionaire Michael Rubin, whose annual 4th of July Hamptons White Party is essentially the Met Gala of the summer, reportedly had to move his event to July 1st just to avoid clashing with Swift's wedding footprint.
That is power.
But I want to challenge this idea of control you mentioned earlier, because if your life is so massive that you have to re-architect the social calendars of billionaires and rent out major sporting arenas just to say I do, are you actually in control? Or have you just built yourself a beautiful gilded prison?
That is the question.
Like, is weaponized omnipresence actually freedom? Or is she just a prisoner who happens to hold the keys?
That is the defining tension of her strategy. The trade-off for controlling the narrative at that scale is that you can never turn the machine off. The stadium show of your life has to run 24/7.
It never stops.
The moment she stops deploying the chaff, the tabloids will instantly revert to hunting for cracks in the facade. She has absolute control over the broadcast, but she is permanently bound to the broadcaster's chair.
It really highlights the surreal dichotomy for you listening to this. Think about it. We have two people who shared a quiet, deeply committed life for over 6 years. And upon exiting that shared space, they adopt opposite extremes to survive the aftermath.
It's like night and day.
Alwyn walks softly through Brooklyn, hoping the privatized paparazzi of camera phones pass him by, protecting his peace through silence. Swift commands Madison Square Garden, protecting her peace through an impenetrable wall of sound and spectacle.
It proves there is no universally correct way to survive the unreal space. You either shrink your footprint until they can't find you, or you expand it until you blot out the sun.
Yeah.
Pidgeon, meanwhile, represents the new generation stepping onto this battlefield, highly aware of the casualties of the past, trying to thread the needle between artistic ambition and personal destruction.
It changes the way you look at a gossip headline, doesn't it?
Completely.
The next time you see a grainy photo of two actors getting coffee or a highly polished video of a pop star giving a speech, you aren't just looking at news. You are watching real-time survival tactics in an attention economy that is fundamentally designed to consume them.
And while the scale is vastly different, the underlying mechanics apply to all of us.
They really do. Let's bring this deep dive back down to earth for a moment. Think about your own digital footprint. Even without a Doomoy account tracking your weekend plans or paparazzi waiting outside your office, we all curate our own realities.
Yep, we all do it.
On a micro level, you face your own version of public scrutiny from your peers, your family, your professional network. You navigate daily how much of your real self you choose to share on a LinkedIn update or an Instagram story versus the vulnerabilities you keep strictly private.
We all construct an avatar for public consumption. We all decide whether to deploy chaff by oversharing our successes or to go dark and protect our peace. The energy required to maintain the boundary between the real you and the perceived you is a universal modern burden.
It really is. Thank you so much for bringing these sources to our attention today. It allowed us to pull back the curtain on a simple celebrity breakup and reveal the heavy, complex machinery of narrative control operating just beneath the surface.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to turn over in your mind. We talked heavily about Joe Alwyn's concept of the permanent gap between the real person and the public persona. If the modern world's relentless demand for content forces you to continually invest energy into either hiding your true self completely or constantly performing an exaggerated version of yourself, at what point does the host body wither away? Eventually, does the real person cease to exist entirely, leaving only the avatar the audience demanded?
Wow, a chilling thought to end on. Who is actually left standing when the lights go out? You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.